Hey, what's up there, YouTubers? It's me again, Brian, aka Gamer 55551, and I am back with a My 2 Cent video for this week, for the week of April 19th to the 25th, where I take a look at a couple of stories that caught my attention, 5 to be exact, and give you my thoughts and my opinion, though. I hope all of you are staying safe out there, especially down here in Southern California, where we're dealing with a heat wave right now. Ew, that's wonderful, but it is what it is and all that stuff. But before we get started with our 5 stories, we'll do a quick rundown on the quick My 2 Cent part in terms of stories that caught my attention, but not as much as these ones do. And there are only like 3 quick My 2 Cents though. The first one has to do with the possibility of a WWE 2K1. Now, I'm not a big wrestling fan or anything like that, but I do know that there is an audience for those type of games, and obviously last year's WWE 2K20, well, that didn't exactly sit well with everybody, especially how it was broken, buggy, glitches, the kind of reaction of the hideous face, just like what we saw years ago with Assassin's Creed Unity and so forth. Well, it seems to be that 2K has confirmed that there will be no WWE 2K, at least for this year. Now, there are probably several reasons though. One, some people tend to point to is the whole pandemic that we're facing with the coronavirus though, which I wouldn't be surprised if that certainly has contributed to it, as a lot of developers are trying to readjust in certain areas due to the whole situation with the coronavirus and so forth. But I also think some of it, and I wouldn't be surprised, is the backlash 2K got after WWE 2K20 came out over how poorly buggy that game was. In fact, I remember hearing the story that it was so bad that Sony, at least if you purchased it from their digital store, was willing to offer a refund because of just how bad and awful it is. Hopefully, the extra time will give 2K the opportunity to go back to the drawing board and at least fix what people did not like about it. But I think it also adds more to the reason why I'm opposed to the whole idea of these annual releases, the newer version next year, when you don't give developers enough time to iron out what people did or didn't like though. We also learned that supposedly the composer of Doom Eternal is kind of distancing themselves from Bethesda. Supposedly, I think the soundtrack came out and it was, for what I've been hearing, it was poorly done and so forth. And the thing is that the composer basically had nothing to do with the soundtrack at all and wasn't consulted or anything like that. And it's kind of sort of distanced himself away from the backlash and all that stuff, which seems kind of stupid for Bethesda to do that in a way, to not even consult the composer of Doom Eternal. Then again, this isn't the first time Doom Eternal got some kind of controversy before the game came out. The trailer for it that they showed off got downvoted on YouTube, both because they used a rap song that didn't really fit the style for the trailer, considering that Doom, the big push is the heavy metal part. So yeah, not a great thing for Doom Eternal, to be exact. Not a great thing to have something like this. And last but not least, what supposedly, at least this is how Nintendo is calling it, we have the final update for Super Mario Maker 2, and this one adds some new features like a course world, which is certainly kind of neat. You can make your own levels you can make your own course, to go to certain levels. They also added the Koopa Kids, which is certainly nice that they added that. They also added the ability to actually use the mushrooms from Super Mario Bros. 2, and you can have, I think, Mario and Luigi not only look like the animation from Super Mario Bros. 2, but do some of the stuff like pick up enemies and throw them, to even having the key with that flying mask come after you and all that stuff. It's probably the closest thing to having the Super Mario Bros. 2 in Super Mario Maker, to the fact that you could use the frog suit from Super Mario Bros. 3 in Super Mario Maker 2. Although I'm still wondering why they didn't add the Tahuki suit or the Hammer Brothers suit. It's also worth pointing out that some of these suits or these items, there's a patch note on it. You can read the patch note in the link in the description, that they're only confined to certain features. So, for example, The Super Mario Bros. 2 mushroom is only found in the original Super Mario Bros., while the frog suit is only found in the Super Mario Bros. 3 part. So they're confined in certain areas, but still, it's there. If you're still enjoying Super Mario Maker 2, you can get this update as well. So it's worth taking a look at, though. Okay, with the quick My 2 cent part out of the way, we'll get started with the first part, and this one has to do with the NPD charts. Now, I was going to be a little bit curious to see what the NPD results were going to be, especially when the coronavirus pandemic broke out like in March and really started to explode onto the scene. Though it was going to be interesting to see what impact this will have on sales on video games, especially considering that several studios, some of them had to close down for a bit due to the whole situation. One example is Virtuos, that was originally working on the Switch version of the Outer Worlds. That game was supposed to come out on March 3rd, but they had to delay it and shut the studio down due to the situation with the coronavirus. Although now that game is set for, I think it's a June 3rd release date. Same with what we saw with Sony with The Last of Us 2, to be exact, though. Well, at least according to this, if I'm reading this correctly, I think the NPD released the results, and it looks like for now, it seems as though with the whole, stay-at-home order and social distancing stuff, it seemed the gaming industry in terms of sales-wise, at least on the sales part of it, seems to be doing all right, at least for now. From an article on VentureBeat, though, again, links will be in the description, the title reads that Animal Crossing powers March to Blockbuster's game sales. It says, quote, March wasn't a good month for anyone, but it was slightly less awful for people who sell video games. That especially is true if video games is Animal Crossing New Horizon. With people in the United States isolating themselves for much of the month, many people obviously turn to a safe at-home entertainment. As a result, consumers in the U.S. spend $1.597 billion on gaming hardware, new games, and accessory plus cards, according to a March 2020 NPD report. NPD report, though. This is the most money the industry has generated in NPD's reopening since $1.8 billion in 2008, though. It says that, quote, March 2020 tracking spending across video game hardware, software, and accessories, and game cards totalated $1.6 billion, gaining 35% when compared to a year ago, said one NPD analysis. Year-to-date 2020 tracking spending across video game hardware, software, and accessories, and game cards total $3 billion, declining 4% when compared to a year ago. This is a massive turnaround for an industry that was circling the end of the generation drain for the most of last year, though the first 2 months of 2020 sales in the U.S. had declined 28% compared to the same period in 2019. So what closed the gap? Animal Crossing and also several high-profile new titles releases, though. And yes, COVID-19, the coronavirus, related social distancing likely got some of the credit as well. That drove people to pick up new hardware. The Switch is set at an all-time record for units sales for any March month since NPD began tracking, but PS4 and Xbox One dollar sales also jumped 25% each year over year. In terms of the best-selling games for March, in terms of it though, obviously here's the interesting thing though. Animal Crossing New Horizon became the #1 best-selling game in March. Obviously, Nintendo has to be happy with that, though. Resident Evil 3 Remake entered in at number 4. Doom Eternal entered in at number 6. Persona 5 Royal entered in at number 7, though. 2 sports titles enter in. MLB The Show 20 entered at number 3, and NBA 2K 20 at number 5. Also, FIFA 20 entered in at number 13, and Madden NFL 20 entered in at EA's NFL 20 entered in at number 16, though. Also, Call of Duty Remastered entered in at number 20, though. So obviously, we're seeing some of the sports titles are doing certainly are selling, mostly because since a lot of the sports events right now are, some of them, not all of them though, are kind of on hiatus because of the whole coronavirus though. But obviously Doom Eternal and Animal Crossing, the two big powerhouse ones, certainly did very well in the charts. Basically, Venture Piece, it says that Animal Crossing New Horizon was the best-selling game for March 2020 and the second best-selling game of 2020 year to date. Animal Crossing New Horizon achieved the third highest launch month's physical dollars and unit sales of any Nintendo published game in track history. Among Nintendo published game, only Super Smash Bros. Ultimate and Super Smash Bros. Brawl debuted with higher physical software sales in a launch month. So obviously that is certainly doing well for them though. Obviously they point out that MLB The Show is thriving as a real sports wither. They're saying MLB The Show was the third best-selling game in March 2020 and instantly became the fifth best-selling game of 2020. And MLB The Show is the fast-selling game in the MLB The Show franchise history, with launch month sales significantly exceeded those of the previous best MLB The Show 19. As far as the top 10 games of this year so far, they're saying Call of Duty Modern Warfare is at number 1, Animal Crossing New Horizons at number 2, Dragon Ball Z Kakarot is at number 3, NBA 2K20 is at number 4, MLB 5 The Show is at MLB 5 The Show 2020 is at number 5, Grand Theft Auto 5 is at number 6, Resident Evil 3 is at number 7, Madden NFL 20 is at number 8, Mario Kart 8 Deluxe is at number 9, and number 10 Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order. In terms of the top 10 games of the last 12 months, they have it as Call of Duty Modern Warfare at number 1, NBA 2K20 at number 2, Madden NFL 20 at number 3, Borderlands 3 at number 4, Mortal Kombat 11 at number 5, Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order at number 6, Grand Theft Auto 5 at number 7, Mario Kart 8 Deluxe at number 8, FIFA 20 at number 9, and Super Smash Bros. Ultimate at number 10. As far as the top 10 Xbox One games right now, other than Minecraft Xbox One Edition, that's the only first-party game on the top 10 Xbox One games for March 2020. That's at number 10. Otherwise, the number 1 game over there is Call of Duty Modern Warfare, although Resident Evil 3 made it at number 2 and Doom Eternal made it in at number 3. Over on the PS4 side of things though, MLB The Show basically became the number 1 best-selling PS4 game for March of 2020 though. Resident Evil 3, the remake, entered in at number 4, Null 2 entered in at number 6, and Doom Eternal entered in at number 7. Over at Nintendo side of it though, it seems as though the only third-party game to make it into the top 10 Nintendo Switch games was Just Dance 2020. Otherwise, Animal Crossing New Horizon is the number 1 best-selling game for Nintendo Switch for the month of March, with Mario Kart 8 Deluxe at number 2, Super Smash Bros. Ultimate at number 3, Pokemon Mystery Dungeon at Rescue Team DX is number 4. As I mentioned, Just Dance is at number 2020 is number 5. Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild still going strong at number 6. Super Mario Party at number 7. Luigi's Mansion 3 at number 8. New Super Mario Bros. U Deluxe at number 9. And Pokemon Sword is at number 10. So I would say the takeaway from all of this is obviously Animal Crossing New Horizon. Despite not everybody agreeing with some of the decisions, we've also heard the game got reviewed bombed though. It's basically did very well and all that stuff. Not to mention we've been seeing people kind of come up with creative ideas, especially with the whole social distancing and so forth. Like one held a birthday party using Animal Crossing, others held like a wedding or a tour of a museum, coming up with some ideas with that. So that one seems to be doing well. Resident Evil 3 certainly is doing well, even though, again, that has its own share of issues some people don't like. Doom Eternal certainly is doing well too. And obviously, a lot of sports titles are certainly doing well, especially like I mentioned earlier. A lot of sports events, a lot of it has been postponed or canceled due to the whole situation with the coronavirus. So, obviously, the situation with the coronavirus has created, sort of a boom for the gaming industry in terms of sales wise and all. Now, it's going to be interesting to see how this plays out down the months and all that stuff, especially where we will still have the whole stay at home and social distancing and all that stuff. So overall, despite the situation with going on right now in the world with the coronavirus, it seems that hasn't stopped, at least for March, though. The gaming industry seemed to be, in terms of sales-wise, is certainly making money, especially with a lot of people, staying at home and so forth. How this will play out during the rest of the year 2020, that kind of remains to be seen at this time. Okay, we're going to take a quick break. When we get back, we're going to get to part 2, and this one has to do with a report of supposedly Best Buy has put up some listings for several games for the Nintendo Switch that Nintendo has yet to announce, though. So we'll take a quick break, and we will be right back. Okay, and we are back with part 2 of our My 2 Cent video. And for this one, we're going to be talking about a listing that popped up on Best Buy, basically referring to the Metroid Prime Trilogy and presumptuously the Super Mario 3D World. Now, we've seen before in the past how retailers have supposedly leaked information on upcoming titles and all. Sometimes they've got it right, sometimes they've also have a history of getting it wrong. Best Buy isn't the only one. We've seen Target done this. We've seen Walmart has done this. We've seen cases where retailers were leaked about Witcher 3 Wild Hunt until it was officially revealed at E3 2019 when we learned that that was coming to the Nintendo Switch. But we've also seen cases where supposedly there were reports about Fire Emblem Fate, the 3DS game making its way to the Nintendo Switch, and supposedly there was a cover art, but that later the cover art turned out to be false, that was basically a fan art and all that stuff. So we've seen leaks before in the past. Like I said, sometimes they're right and sometimes they're wrong. Now, but however, recently, Best Buy, Best Buy recently leaked, supposedly claims that we could be seeing put up a retail of Metroid Prime Trilogy, although some people do have doubts about this. In an article from Game Rant, though, links will be in the description down below, it reads that, quote, even though it was announced all the way back at Nintendo E3 2017, Nintendo Direct fans likely still have a long wait ahead of them when it comes to Metroid Prime 4. This is thanks to the fact that development on the title had restarted in 2019 with Retro Studio taking control of the project. A bit of a side note on this, it was rumored to believe that the game, that Metroid Prime 4 was worked on an eternal development team, and it was believed to be that Bandai Namco, particularly Bandai Namco Singapore, was working on the title before it got pulled. Supposedly Nintendo was not happy with it. And some people claimed that based off a linking page, one of the programmers that originally worked on that may have worked on that title as pointing out to an unannounced first-person shooter for the Switch before that got canceled. Same with supposedly a Rig Racer game coming to the Switch before that got canceled as well. Though those are rumors and no one knows if that information is 100% correct or not. So you could come to your conclusion on that one. Anyway, continuing on with the article, it says, however, it seems likely there will be at least some Metroid Prime content for the Switch in the near future if a Best Buy listing is anything to go by. A recent Best Buy listing has leaked the existence of Metroid Prime Trilogy for the Nintendo Switch. No other details are available in the listing, but it's likely that Metroid Prime Trilogy on the Switch is a direct port of the collection that was previously released for the Wii in 2009 and the Wii U eShop in 2015. This means that Switch owners should be able to look forward to an enhanced version of the original Metroid Prime games, assuming the Best Buy listing is legitimate, though. This is far from the first time we've heard Metroid Prime Trilogy potentially coming to the Nintendo Switch. A different retail listing for Metroid Prime Trilogy appeared online a couple years ago, and reports have indicated that Metroid Prime Trilogy for Switch actually finished development long ago. Metroid Prime for the Switch could tide some fans over while they wait for Metroid Prime 4, plus it will help bolster the Switch library. Previous reports have indicated that Switch will continue to get ports of this year, with old school Mario games rumored alongside Wii and Wii U titles. Super Mario 3D World is supposedly rumored as one of those Mario titles that could make their way over to Nintendo Switch. Assuming these reports are accurate, bringing Metroid Prime Trilogy to the Switch seemed like a no-brainer for Nintendo. In the meantime, Metroid Prime Trilogy isn't the only Metroid game rumored for the Nintendo Switch. Another rumor has claimed that a 2D Metroid game is also in the works for the system, though that remains to be seen. Nintendo found a great deal of success with 2D Metroid Samus Returns, so it doesn't seem out of the question the company would pursue another 2D Metroid game for its new console. In case you're wondering, Samus Returns, Metroid Samus Returns is basically a remake of the original Metroid 2 Return of Samus that came out for the Nintendo original Game Boy. This was put for the Nintendo 3DS. However, while this certainly is interesting, and the person who posted this also posted the tweet that came from this, points out there's currently a listing for a Metroid Prime Trilogy on Switch. Don't do this to me, by MCTROID. Some people have doubts about this though, and supposedly the first one points out from an article from Nintendo Life saying that they're not sure about this one. The article that reads, quote, "At the end of last month, VGC published a report claiming that Nintendo was set to remaster a majority of Super Mario catalog to celebrate the series' 35th anniversary this year." Excuse me. It was then backed up by Eurogamer, and after this, Venture Beats chime in with information on its own source. One of the games that's said to be making a return was the Wii U outing of Super Mario 3D World. According to Jeff Source, that recently called the Indie World and Nintendo Direct, there's a possibility that 3D World is getting its own deluxe return, a bit like New Super Mario Bros. U Deluxe. It was sent speculation wild. Since then, fans have been searching for extra clues. Well-known Nintendo fan and Twitter user Wario64 has now turned the attention to a not yet active listing on the Best Buy website. Wario64 recently posted a quote saying, "The listing is not active, but there's a listing for Super Mario 3D World for Switch at Best Buy's SKU." Reading the number is 6352130. It has a price tag of $60 currently. Take it with a grain of salt, but given the Mario rumors a few weeks ago, it's likely this one is coming. Retail's listing and lease are often good indications if a game is on its way, and we've seen this in the past with titles like Witcher 3 Wild Hunt Complete Edition. Unfortunately, the US-based retailer Best Buy does not have the strongest track record on the Switch front. It previously lists Metroid Prime Trilogy and Persona 5 for the Nintendo Switch, and 12 months later, there's still no official word. Former Best Buy employees have even stated in the past the company adds games all the time based on rumors. And they wrote a similar article about it though. The person who article about it, Wario64 made a comment on this before, saying that Best Buy has pulled Persona 5 Switch, Metroid Prime Trilogy Switch, and linked to the past Switch listings from their Eternal system as of this morning. This post was posted on April 3rd. And they concluded, just to clarify on the Best Buy thing, the Switch listings are still there in the RSS, but not on their core Blue system. Basically, the listings are still there in one form. It's being deleted or not means nothing anyway until there's an official announcement, though. And basically, one person who claimed to have worked at Best Buy made the claim. Basically said, quote, "We used to work at Best Buy, and we would look for games all the time when rumors pop up around or before E3. we could pretty much tell what's going to be announced by looking and seeing what was shown previously with Persona 5 and Link to the Past. So supposedly, they're saying, this leaker and this person, shall we say, is saying that in the past, though, that Best Buy doesn't have exactly the best track record. I still would take this with a huge grain of salt because we don't know if this rumor is true or not. Yes, there are times retailers have gotten it right, but there are times retailers have also got it wrong as well. Still, I can't rule out the possibility that a Metroid Prime Trilogy for the Nintendo Switch, I can't rule that out that would probably happen. Same with Super Mario 3D World. In fact, if I had to pick between the two, I think Super Mario 3D World getting a port on that game coming to the Switch, I think that's more of a given at this time, considering the fact that we've seen a lot of Wii U titles make their way over to the Nintendo Switch. As for Metroid Prime Trilogy, while it's unclear whether that game is done or not, despite the rumors out there, in my personal opinion, I really think Nintendo should release the game on the Switch now, considering that we're going to be waiting for Metroid Prime 4 for a while, with Retro Studio starting development on it, though, which, in all honesty, I think Nintendo should have gone with Retro Studios in the first place, though, but that's a different story and all that stuff, though. I personally think they should bring the Prime Trilogy over. Plus, considering the fact that there are people who have not touched a Wii U or a Wii, and they just got a Nintendo Switch and all that stuff, I think this would be a good opportunity to reach out to that audience who never played the Metroid Prime's games, though. I think they're really good. I think they're enjoyable. They're first-person adventures game. They're probably the best Metroid games I've played since the original Super Metroid back on the Super Nintendo. So, overall, I still think these are rumors. I still want to wait to hear an official confirmation from Nintendo. I do hope these rumors are true. I would like to see Metroid Prime Trilogy come to Nintendo Switch. And while I consider Super Mario 3D World the black sheep of the 3D Mario games, I wouldn't mind seeing that one coming to the Nintendo Switch. But if I had to look between these two, I would say I think Super Mario 3D World is more of a given. I do believe that will come to the Nintendo Switch, given the fact that we've seen a lot of Wii U ports come over to the Nintendo Switch. So, like I said, I'm taking this one with a grain of salt, but I'm not completely ruling it out. Okay, we're going to take a quick break. When we get back, we'll get to part 3. And this one has to do with reports of sales numbers, or at least sales figures that Square Enix has put out in regards of the Final Fantasy VII Remake. So we'll take a quick break, and we will be right back. Okay, and we are back with part 3 of our My 2 Cent video, and for this one, we're going to be taking a look at a report coming out, at least from Square Enix, that Final Fantasy VII Remake's sales numbers, or at least their shipping numbers, and so forth. So I'm sure most of you are aware by then, Final Fantasy VII Remake is out and about, out there in the wild. Basically a remake of the 1997 classic originally released on the original PlayStation, although the game has now been ported over to, like, I think the computer, PC, smartphones, Android devices. It even made its way over to the Nintendo Switch and all that stuff. And all that. But the game itself, the remake, has sort of garnished some mixed responses on people. There are those who do like the game and all, and there are those who are not happy with it. Some people are a little bit upset about the ending and all, although I haven't got to that point. I have to see the ending myself. And while others just or in general don't like the game. Either way, regardless of how you feel about Final Fantasy VII, whether you like it or not, based on my time with it, I'm still enjoying the game, though. I do enjoy the combat. It has a bit of that Final Fantasy 15 and Kingdom Hearts vibe to it, though. But anyway, regardless of how you feel about the game, it seems as though that, at least according to Square Enix, the game seems to be doing very well. In an article from Game Radar, it reads that, quote, Final Fantasy Remake collectively sold and shipped more than 3.5 million copies in its first 3 days of official availability on the PS4. The official Final Fantasy VII Remake Twitter account shared the figure earlier today, thanking players worldwide for helping make the game an early success after its debut on April 10th. According to their Twitter page, it reads, quote, or at least their Twitter feed, it says, "We're proud to announce we shipped and digitally sold over 3.5 million copies of Final Fantasy VII Remake in 3 days. All of us would like to raise our Buster Swords to say thank you to everyone who has supported us during launch. We hope you all enjoy the game. Hashtag FF7R," though. For reference, Square Enix has said the original Final Fantasy VII for PlayStation sold 9.8 million copies worldwide as of December 2005, according to accounting for 8 years of sales. The medium of video games have grown just in touch since then, as you may have noticed. There are a couple of caveats. The language of shipping and digitally sold means that Square Enix probably is counting all the physical copies it has shipped out to retailers, not just copies that customers have bought. Some retailers broke the street date for Final Fantasy VII Remake as well, which means that may have been an extra long first day as well. All that said, it still looks like the game's doing quite well, especially considering the strange state of the world right now. It's a lovely time to find comfort in a new take on a familiar world and character. Since Final Fantasy VII Remake was only the first part of a new series recreating the entire original game's main story, it will be interesting to see how the following chapters sell and how the original sell once it hits other platforms. Square Enix has said work on the second game will be more efficient, so we shouldn't need to wait quite as long. So, at least according to Square Enix, it looks like the game is doing well, which is good, even though I'm a little iffy with the whole episodic approach. That said, while the game certainly is doing well, there are some caveats, though, in a way, in terms of sales numbers. It certainly is, or at least in terms of how much they've, in terms of shipped or sold digitally, though. While 3.5 million is an impressive number, though, it hasn't overtaken, say, Final Fantasy 15. And an article pointed out by VGC, Video Games Chronicles, they say that the game has fallen short of 15's launch record. And the part of that article reads, quote, Final Fantasy 15 remains the fastest selling game in the long-running RPG series, historically having record day one shipment and digital sale exceeding 5 million units following its November 2016 release on PS4 and Xbox One. So, again, it doesn't overtake Final Fantasy 15, but nevertheless, 3.5 million isn't necessarily bad. The article also points out that this game is exclusive to the PlayStation platform for 1 year. Over in the UK, though, while it was number one last week, at least this week, though, it looks like it's dropped down to number 4, with FIFA becoming number 1, Animal Crossing New Horizon at number 2, and Call of Duty Modern Warfare at number 3. Still, even though it may have not overtaken Final Fantasy 15, or it may have not got knocked down from being number 1 last week, that's still an impressive number nevertheless, though. And I'm glad the game is certainly doing very well. I certainly enjoy the game and all that stuff. Is it still going to be controversial or diverse for some people out there? Probably, though. More than likely, it won't appeal to everybody, though. But regardless of whether you think it's controversial, regardless of whether you think the ending was good or bad, though, either way, Final Fantasy VII Remake is doing very well, at least for now. So overall, I'm glad the game is doing alright. And while I'm not a big fan of the episodic approach, though, I am curious to see what the next chapter is going to be, even though I'm a little iffy about the whole idea of aiming for the whole episodic approach to the Final Fantasy VII Remake. Okay, we're going to take a quick break. When we get back, we're going to get to part 4, and this one has to do with supposedly in regards of PAX West and whether or not it's going to happen this year. So we'll take a quick break, and we will be right back. Okay, and we are back with part 4 of our My 2 Cent video, and this one has to do with in regards of Pax West 2020. Now, I'm sure most of you are aware that this year has not been great for a lot of conventions or events and all that stuff. Because of what's been going on in the world lately in regards of the coronavirus, a lot of events have been canceled so far. We've seen Gamescom recently has announced a cancellation. E3 has gone in there despite being optimistic a little bit earlier and all that stuff. I mean, hell, even non-gaming events out here in Southern California, Coachella just recently got canceled for this year, though, along with Stagecoach, which is the country music version of Coachella. So a lot of events have been canceled, and it doesn't surprise me at all, especially what's been going on around the world lately with the coronavirus. But it looks like one event, at least for now, and a lot could change, would be Pax West. And in an article from Destructoid, it reads that, quote, most upcoming major video game conventions in the United States has been canceled because of the coronavirus restriction. However, one of the biggest tentatives has the green light, at least for the time being. Penny Arcade has sent an update about Pax West that states it still intends to hold the convention as currently scheduled over Labor Day weekend in Seattle. PAX organizers say, as plans for Pax West take shape, show organizers are optimistic and will continue to carefully monitor the latest development in regards to the coronavirus, working with health officials at all levels of the government and adhering to the guidelines of the CDC and the WHO, World Health Organization, to ensure our event is safe, health conscious, and responsible. Of course, the article concludes, this optimism is mostly rooted in the fact that Pax West is still more than 4 months away and no one really knows the timeline for the corona cleaning up. Last week, San Diego Comic-Con was canceled as it became obvious that it'll be impossible to host a huge convention, including all the logistics around pulling it together by late July. Penny Arcade is probably working with a similar time constraint, meaning we can likely look to early June or so as a cancellation target if conditions don't improve. But for now, Pax West is all systems go. And the response, depending on who you ask, doesn't seem to be are not optimistic as those who are running Pax West. In fact, in an article from PlayStation Lifestyle, the response has been several Twitters had basically people have responded to this with one Twitter by the name of I'm Your Dad reads, quote, authorities, if you're sick, stay home. People with coronavirus, and it has a picture from, I believe, the Lord of the Rings saying, I think I'm quite ready for another adventure. One person, Woot, W-O-U-T, Evolve PR, writes, social awkward distancing, the past experience. And then one from Jason Schreier writes wrote, quote, chances of this actually happening or a whopping 0%. So I can see why some people are kind of pessimistic that this is going on. If you probably remember, E3 went through a similar situation. They were basically optimistic, saying that they could probably have E3 despite the situation with the coronavirus. But it became apparently clear as the situation with the coronavirus started to get worse, it became clear that they could not host E3 this year. And honestly, I wouldn't be surprised if this happens to Pax West as well. Again, we'll find out as we get closer to Labor Day if the situation improves or not, though, but it wouldn't shock me if we hear Pax West is canceled and all that stuff, especially after we're hearing Comic-Con, San Diego Comic-Con getting canceled this year, along with Gamescom, although they're going a digital event rather than the traditional Gamescom. So overall, for now, Pax West seems to be the full steam ahead for the moment, but don't be shocked if we hear it gets canceled this year, or if they do something like what Gamescom's doing, which is a digital event. Okay, we're going to take a quick break, and when we get back, we're going to get to part 5, our fifth and final part, and this one has to do with a report that several Nintendo accounts or Nintendo network accounts or actually a lot, shall we say, may have been hacked. So we'll take a quick break and we will be right back. Okay, and we are back with our fifth and final part of our My True Cent video. And for this one has to do with a concern in regards to the fact that several Nintendo accounts, according to what we were hearing, 160,000 may have been hacked. Now, there has been a story going around that lately that some accounts, or at least there's been some issues as early as April, that some of them, there may have been purchases by individuals using certain accounts, their accounts, that they never made authorized purchases or anything like that. So some people may have hacked and all that stuff. This has happened before, regardless if you had a Nintendo account or not. What I mean by that is that even if there have been reports before of sometimes people feel like that someone may have taken their information to buy things and all that stuff. And, you always have to check if that is the case, check to see if someone made an unwanted purchase, go through the bank or anything like that and verify it to make sure it's accurate and all that stuff. And unfortunately, it seems as though that some people may have been impacted by what I said earlier, that apparently some of their Nintendo network accounts may have been compromised. In an article on Nintendo Life, it reads that, quote, "This week, an increasing number of Nintendo account holders have been reporting suspicious activities on their accounts. Something included unauthorized logins and payments used to buy digital goods on Nintendo's digital stores. In response, Nintendo advised players to set up a two-step verification to add another layer of security to their accounts and have now issued an official statement. Posted to Nintendo Japan's website, the statement confirms that around 160,000 Nintendo accounts which use a Nintendo Network ID to log in may have been affected by an unauthorized login. These hacks attempts have been taking place since around the beginning of April, though. Nintendo said it has now abolished the option to log in using the Nintendo Network ID and will force a password update for any account which has either been directly affected or using that login method. Anyone affected by these changes will be notified by email. Nintendo warns that information such as players' nicknames, date of birth, country, regions, or email address may have been viewed by a third party if connected to a Nintendo Network ID. Players' credit card information remains to be safe and secure, though. That's what they're basically saying, though. And some of the reports, that's basically this one from The Verge, pointing out that reports earlier this week suggested some accounts have been breached and people have been using them to buy digital items like bundles of Fortnite V-Bucks. Nintendo is asking affected users to contact the company so it can investigate the purchase histories and cancel purchase. And Nintendo, supposedly Nintendo UK, or in an English statement, or the English statement though, released a statement though. It reads that, "We would like to provide an update on the recent incident of unauthorized access to Nintendo accounts. While we continue to investigate, we would like to reassure users that there is currently no evidence pointing towards a breach of Nintendo's database, servers, or service. As one action in an ongoing investigation, we are discontinuing the ability to use a Nintendo Network ID to sign into a Nintendo account. All other options to sign into a Nintendo account remain available." I think that includes, using like Twitter or Facebook or something like that. "As further precautions, we will soon contact users about resetting passwords for Nintendo Network's ID and Nintendo accounts that we have reason to believe were accessed without authorization. In addition, we continue to strongly encourage users to enable a two-step verification for their Nintendo accounts as instructed here." How to set up two-step verifications for a Nintendo account. If you're thinking about using that, I'll have a link in the description. You can check that out, though. "If any users become aware of unauthorized activities, we encourage them to take the step outlining in the article about the Nintendo account recovery process. During this investigation, in order to deter further attempts on unauthorized sign-ins, We will not reveal more information about the method employed to gain unauthorized access. We apologize for inconvenience and concerns caused to our customers, and we will continue working hard to safeguard the security of our users' database. Now, I've already checked to make sure if anything had happened or anything like that. As far as I'm aware of, I haven't gotten an email or anything to indicate about changing anything like that. So I don't know. It's possible I may not have been impacted or be, the 160,000. I'm not saying others. There could be those out there who have been impacted, but there are cases where some people have been impacted though. And just to make sure, too, any purchases I make, I'm doing it through PayPal. There's no way I'm putting my credit card information out there, though. And 3, speaking of which, I've also took a look at my bank statement just to make sure if there were any unauthorized purchases, and so far nothing has popped up that raised any red flags or anything like that. So I'm kind of monitoring the situation, though, but still, yeah, that's not good. The fact that some of these information is compromises, though, and the fact that they are encouraging you, that they're saying that your credit card is safe and secured, it's possible that could be true, but just to stay on the safe side, it's probably best to use something like PayPal and all that stuff. The other thing that's worth pointing out is that it seems to indicate only those on the Nintendo network in regards of those using the Wii U and the 3DS, as so far there's been no reports of anything in regards of the Nintendo Switch, as it doesn't seem like that's been impacted. So if that's the case, that is good. But overall, not a great thing for Nintendo, and I do think it's important that you take a look at your account, make sure there isn't any unauthorized purchases. If you want to do this two-step verification, then go ahead and do that. Check your account, make sure there's not any unnecessary purchase. Check to make sure if your credit card information is safe. If not, consider using PayPal instead if you rather take that approach. I personally am doing that. So it's still not exactly great for Nintendo on this one, though. And while it certainly hasn't impacted those who have just the Nintendo Switch, it is a little worried that it's only a matter of time before we hear something like this. Start hearing stories about this popping up for the Nintendo Switch. Hopefully that doesn't happen, but it is somewhat a little bit concerning in a way. Okay, this concludes this My 2 Cent video for this week. And again, these are my opinion. What are yours? What do you thought about the NPD numbers for March of 2020? Are you surprised that that games were able to sell very well despite what's going on with the coronavirus? Or are you not surprised at all? Do you think we could see something like this going further down 2020, or despite the coronavirus, or not? Do you think this was a one-time thing? Do you don't think it was a one-time thing? What are your thoughts about this report about supposedly Metroid Prime Trilogy and Super Mario 3D World popping up on this Best Buy, like a pre-order system and so forth? Do you think it's accurate? Do you think we're going to hear a Super Mario 3D World or a Metroid Prime Trilogy for the Switch? Or do you think Best Buy is kind of jumping the gun a little bit? Or do you think that this one is completely inaccurate? What are your thoughts about Final Fantasy VII Remake in terms of sales-wise and how it's doing? Do you think this is great that the game is doing well? Were you excited for the remake? Were you not excited for the remake? Are you looking forward to the next episodic or the next part of the Final Fantasy VII Remake? What are your thoughts about Pax West still going on despite the whole situation with the coronavirus? Do you think Pax West will happen this year, or do you feel like the other events we've been seeing that got canceled this year because of the coronavirus, do you think Pax West will be canceled as well? And last but not least, are you concerned about your Nintendo Network account after hearing the report of basically hearing that some of these accounts may have been hacked? Are you not worried? Are you going to take any precautions, like do this two-step verification, or are you going to take a different approach, or are you not worried at all? Do you agree with what I said in this video? Do you disagree? Do you have a difference of opinion? As always, sound off in the comment section below. Let me know what you think. And if you like this video, I hope you hit the like button. I would appreciate it. And I hope you do subscribe to my YouTube channel. If you do, make sure you hit the bell icon for notifications of any new videos I put up. Also, feel free to share this video if you want to, and feel free to donate to my channel if you'd like. You could do it through PayPal me or Patreon. Links will be in the description down below. And I will see you again next time when I do another video. Hopefully that will be soon. Until then, from Southern California, I wish you all a good day then. Bye!